In a 10 springlock suits. While Henry may not have designed the springlock suits, he certainly let Afton create them and then allowed for their use in the restaurants, despite them being incredibly dangerous to employees, only putting them out of commission when someone got hurt, and not being proactive because they were literal death machines. Okay, you make separate animatronics and then you have separate costumes, okay? That's the right move, the smart move, the safe move. But this so-called businessman thought, yeah, I'll put the safety of my employees at risk by making them wear a hot as balls suit filled with robotic parts that, with even the slightest bit of moisture, will cause those robotic parts to snap back into place. What can go wrong? We want to talk about Willy Wonka's OSHA violations? Imagine FNAF's OSHA violations. Damn, it's actually a good list idea. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. But seriously, Henry definitely had to pay someone off to keep that thing under wraps. God damn. And I thought that William was the one paying everyone off. Maybe not. And at 9, stayed open. Not only did this man allow for the springlock suits to be used by staff, even if it was in their contract, it shouldn't have needed to be in their contract anyway. But this man kept the company going after losing how many kids? His daughter, Afton's 2 kids, 5 more in 1985, and then however many that kept getting slaughtered by Afton every time they reopened. By reopening over and over, Henry gave Afton a location to kill, even when he got Afton banned from the location and tried using facial recognition tech to keep him out. Okay, Afton made the robots. Of course, he's not going to add himself to the facial recognition, if it was even an actual thing to begin with. But this man reopened like how many times before finally biting it in FNAF 6? Like seriously, before Springtrap was even a thing, they reopened like 3 times at least. Why did this man think that any of this was a good idea? In FNAF 6, he says that he wants everyone to forget about the tragedies that were caused by these restaurants, but do that by closing the restaurants before Springtrap is created, so we can all just live in peace. And at 8, left it to fate. FNAF 6 was supposed to be the end of the Afton story. That's what Henry set out to do in that game. Make sure that nobody remembered what happened there, despite the parents of the victims definitely remembering. However, this dumbass figured that the fire didn't work the last time, so a second one surely will. And in fact, he was so confident in his plan, for whatever stupid reason, that he actually let himself die in this process to leave nobody remembering what happened. But like I said, even if Henry and William are dead, the parents of the victims still know. And as we learned from security breach duffel bags, they aren't the only parents who remember too, citing the missing children from the Pizzaplex as happening again. If Henry had stuck around to see if the job was really done, like a round of Hearthstone, maybe William wouldn't have been able to possess Vanny and come back yet again to wreak more havoc. The Pizzaplex's missing children are a direct result of Henry just being a straight up moron, and you can't tell me any different. Okay, he should have lit the place up, smashed everything that survived the fire, and then he could off himself if he wanted to, okay? But like, make sure the job's done first. And it's 7, bad babysitter. Now, while we don't know the details about what's going on inside the Midnight Motorist minigame, although I think we kind of figured it out, link to that video is in the iCard, I think it's safe to say that this is the Afton family, and particularly the Afton males. Seemingly, Michael was babysitting crying child while their father was at work, but Michael was just watching TV and not his little brother, which allowed his little bro to break his window and go to the pizza place yet again, which I'm sure made his father so angry that when he got his son back home, he wasn't the nice father I'm sure he pretends to be. So Michael's negligence ended up getting his little brother in trouble and God knows what else, because all he wanted to do was watch his show, which is possibly Immortal and the Restless, which makes this even worse because it's a fucking soap opera. And before any of you get mad at me and tell me that this isn't freaking Michael, okay, the one who tells William to go easy on crying child is most definitely Michael and not William's wife, since this is after William started killing, so his wife was gone. Plus, it's the same gray shirt that Michael wears at like literally all the time, and he's in front of the same TV that we sit in front of in Sister Location. That's about as clear cut as the series gets. And at 6, walking corpse. Now, Sister Location also ends with a scene of Michael walking around town literally purple and smelling god awful. Some see this as his body rotting thanks to the animatronic parts inside him. I like to think that it's because the robotic parts inside him are beating up his inside so much that it's causing severe bruising. Because never have I once seen a decaying body be shown as purple purple in color. Every version of rotting corpses, especially like living corpses, with zombies being the most common example when rotting, are shown as green in cartoons, like Minecraft zombies for instance, or Plants vs. Zombies. So the purple in reality just can't be decay, because it just doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. But if it is the case, walking around in public smelling like that is a crime in and of itself. Holy crap. And if it's not the case, this man obviously hasn't showered in ages. And whether that's due to a personal choice or the choice of the animatronics inside him, damn, it's still a horrifying mistake. A damn shame is what it is. Halfway through into number 5, burning. FNAF 6 is a pretty good game. It was something new and probably the most interactive FNAF game we've ever had since we got to make our own pizzeria. But the ending, while good and one of the most iconic speeches of all time, Michael letting himself go up in flames as well as the whole pizzeria is seriously dumb on his part. Like, bro, you've seen your father come back to life just as many times as anyone else. Like, at least keep kicking around for another year or two to make sure he's actually dead instead of just hoping he is. You know that this man is as relentless as Taco Bell after a night of binge drinking, yet you let it go. Just think about things. I wish for once one person in this series would actually think something through. And Henry encouraging him to stay just also seems like a bad idea to me. Straight up. Like, I get that you want nobody to remember this, but unless you've killed the parents of all the victims or everyone who's ever covered the story in the media, people are always going to remember this. So just stay alive, okay? Make sure the story is over, and then you can off yourself. Both Michael and Henry, honestly. God. And at 4, animatronic escape. Going to investigate a secret underground facility when your homicidal maniac of a father asks you to is one thing. It's another thing when you become the vessel through which 5 separate animatronics escape into the outside world to begin wreaking havoc. Like, sure, you couldn't really help it, but the canon ending to the game is seemingly the one where you listen to Baby and then end up getting scooped. So in actuality, Michael was being just a big old dum-dum here. After everything, you should know that the possessed animatronics, even if they are possessed by your sister, are a bad idea, especially if you've been through the other locations already and have been attacked by those very same haunted animatronics. Have you never seen an episode of Supernatural? Like, every spirit is a vengeful spirit after this long, bro. Come on. Just salt and burn the animatronic and then go home. Wait, could the whole, like, remnant needs to burn thing be referenced to Supernatural? I hope so. Getting close to the end in number 3, robotic recreation. Okay, losing a child is a horrific tragedy to have to go through, okay? I know that. It's happened in my family, and I know the toll it can take. But I'm gonna be honest here, okay? Nobody in my family has brought someone back by turning them into a robot and then implanting them with memories made using a tripod and a camera. Okay, Henry doing this not only leads to more grief, but also this basically child then has to go through some really traumatic stuff because they are a robot. Not to mention the fact that her adult version is also one of the killer animatronics that the guy who killed your daughter in the first place created. And it was possessed by the spirit of the killer's daughter, who was also killed by that specific animatronic. So yeah, this is some pretty weird stuff to say the absolute least. Not to throw in how it kinda comes out of left field and threw literally everything we knew about the series for a loop, despite everyone not really thinking that it matters in the grand scheme of things. Just like, why are the books the way they are? Like, why do I have to deal with this on a daily basis? Why is this my life? How is this my job? So many questions that nobody has the answers for, okay? Not even my therapist, who strangely keeps going missing every time they ask me about encrypted conversations that I don't remember having. And ultimately, in at number 2, arson. Alright, don't get me wrong. I love fire, and I've made jokes about arson multiple times on this channel. I'm actually surprised the police haven't contacted me. We're not that popular, but like, we love a little anarchy, you know? But this man has some serious pyromaniac tendencies from the looks of things. He sets one fire in 2023 and then proceeds to light another one not long after. Like, bro, what's your deal? You literally made an entire pizzaplex just to set on fire. Why are you so fire happy all of a sudden? Okay, it didn't even work. Literally every time we set a fire, it doesn't do the one thing that we wanted it to do, which is kill Afton for good. He survived FNAF 3. He survived FNAF 6. He survived the security breach fire only to be grabbed by the blob. So clearly, fire isn't working, but Henry doesn't stop. And yes, the FNAF security breach fires were actually thanks to Henry, since it was almost certainly the same system that he had used to set the fires in the FNAF 6 location, since this Freddy Fazbear's is the simulated one from that game. But this man keeps setting fire after fire with no actual accomplishments because of it. Dude, take a hint. It's not working. And finally, in at number 1, neglect. Now, this might be a controversial topic. This may make a few Henry stans mad. But you know what? It needs to be said. If you're suspicious of your business partner and concerned for your daughter's well-being, you don't just give her a special bracelet that makes her a priority to the one security bot you have, okay? That's one thing you can do, but you don't just do that, especially when that bot can be disabled by simply placing a couple of boxes on top of it. You keep her at home as much as you can, you keep an eye on her, and you should be doing that anyways, because, you know, she's like 3 years old. You don't give her a bracelet and then let her run around amongst the big kids at a pizza place where she gets locked outside of and then subsequently killed. Bro, no. How did she even get locked outside? How was that possible? How could that even happen? Neglect. This man put a green bracelet on his 3-year-old daughter and said, "That's enough," and then neglected her, hoping that the green bracelet would just protect her. Like, bro, what the hell? Especially when the man you think may hurt her is the one who built the animatronics in the first place and knows exactly how to disable it when the time comes. The worst thing Henry has done was straight up just get his daughter killed. He suspected William and then didn't report it to the cops. Could we at least get him a conspiracy to commit charge? And then he thinks that a bracelet is going to be enough to keep her safe thanks to an animatronic that William had designed. And it's Afton Robotics, dude. Holy crap. You can't fight me on this. You can't argue in the comments. You know I'm right. We've talked about a lot of the people in FNAF, probably too many, but also we've talked about the worst things that they've done. Even some of the so-called good guys. Henry and Gregory aren't the saints that some fans make them out to be. And unfortunately, the same can be said about the de facto father figure of Security Breach, Glamrock Freddy. On the surface, it may look like he's helping us, but when you take a look at the reasoning or the logic behind it all, you notice that Glamrock Freddy isn't quite as squeaky clean as his plastic exterior would lead you to believe. In reality, he's as cold as an endoskeleton in the Arctic. His biggest crimes are what we're exploring today. Let's do it. In at 10, turns on us. The reason this is going to be our number 10 slot is because, well, technically it isn't Freddy that's turning on us. Technically speaking, it's William Afton taking control of Freddy's body and making him turn on us. Yeah, it's kind of up in the air. During the final boss fight, Freddy can be hacked by Burn Trap, and when this is going on, he'll stand in the middle of the room as a hazard and just start jibbing out. If Burn Trap ends up successfully hacking him, meaning that you don't burn him before a timer runs out, Glamrock Freddy will chase after and kill Gregory, either by just running at you or by pulling him out of his stomach if, you know, you're inside of Freddy when he's getting tortured, which is weird. That's a whole other issue. Gregory can still lure Freddy out of the way when he is being taken over, though, by calling him over to a different spot, hitting the right button, whatever version you're on. But I mean, come on, okay? How is it that Freddy can't resist this at this point? Yeah, sure, it's Afton directly tapping into you, but he's also using a computer as a proxy. So it's basically the same thing as the original glitch trap virus that he ended up stopping somehow in the opening credits, okay? I don't know how this was supposed to make sense in universe, but either way, it's stupid, and Glamrock Freddy should be ashamed that this could have happened, even if canonically it didn't. But I still do think that Freddy is evil, okay? Check up in the top right corner, whichever one that ends up being, for the video explaining why, because yeah, it's a long one, if I remember. In at 9, copyright infringement. Okay, technically I don't think that this is actually copyright infringement, and it's more so a reference to a well-known figure, but it's definitely something that needs to be mentioned. At this point, I think everyone knows about the Glamrock Freddy pose that's meant to be a reference to Freddie Mercury, right? Yeah, I feel like it's a thing. The one from the introduction, and I think it was also maybe in the trailers. Well, I'm gonna use this number to be like a YouTube comment section and say that he's stealing it rather than making a reference. Because whenever I say something as a reference to someone else, even subtly, so that only those who actually watch those other YouTubers would understand, people say that I'm trying to steal their thing, or that I'm taking it. Dude, bro, it's a reference. It's an homage, okay? Of course me saying that it's just a theory, a game theory is meant to be MatPat, okay? It's not me trying to steal it. Obviously, everyone knows where it comes from. You come here in between MatPat theories on FNAF, okay? The same thing happens when I'm calling Chica Mommy, or doing the Eddie VR whistle, okay? That was terrible. It's a reference, okay? But everyone in the comments every time says that I'm stealing it. So I'm going to apply that logic to Freddy and say that he's stealing this pose, okay? Now watch all those same commenters that were attacking me come to defend Freddy now, okay? I'm gonna, you know what? I said defriend, leave it in too, okay? I don't care. In at 7, he didn't call the cops. Let's look at this logically, alright? This man knew what was going on and that Afton had some shady shit going down. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put a green wristband on Charlie, right? Well, if he knew this man was up to something and was fearing for his daughter's safety because of it, why didn't he make the call to the police and say like, hey man, so William Afton is the one who's offing all those kids and the one that you've been looking for, alright? So, go get him. Like, maybe he didn't have any proof, but he could certainly have kept an eye on him or gotten the police to keep an eye on him. But he didn't. And instead, he did a whole load of other shit that in reality did nothing to actually hinder William. He did some stuff to put him out of commission for like 30 years, but only 30 years. This man could have actually stopped him, but instead chose to keep his mouth shut. You know what they say, if you see something, say something. Well, at least they say that on the Toronto Transit. I don't know if they really say it anywhere else. And at 6, sealed Afton. Speaking of putting William out of commission for 30 years, why did he do that? Okay, it seems like a dumb idea compared to some other alternatives. Maybe he tried other avenues before he actually ended up hiding those rooms away, but like, in reality, we can't be sure and we have to go off of what we know. So, this man sees Afton stuck spasming in the spring bodysuit and straight up thinks, yeah, let's just hide this. And not like, oh, let's put him out of the misery so we can also put an end to the killing spree once and for all. I mean, it seems like the biggest mistake made by any FNAF character is the choice to make William suffer. Like, if we just put him to the sword, we would all be able to go home safely. But no, he locks Afton in a room where he hopes that he'll starve to death and suffer. Stupid idea. You could have just ended it then and there. You seem to have no other qualms in killing him literally at any other time, so what's the deal here? It's not like someone's gonna know it was you, or know that the animatronic actually contained a person. Even the death penalty nowadays doesn't make people suffer. Okay, don't be dumb for your own petty vengeance. Let them suffer in prison where they're probably gonna get killed anyway. Halfway through in at number 5, freed Afton. Not only does this man lock Afton away in a secret room prison in an old pizzeria, he then ends up letting him be set free. Henry, being the owner of the company and sole proprietor after Afton's death or disappearance, he would be the only person who would most definitely be the one to have the final sale and be the one to sign off on a sale of the FNAF 3 location. He would have had to, however, he sells it knowing that Afton is damn well trapped inside. I don't know why this guy thought it was a good idea, but here we are. William is then set free by the people who bought it because they see that the original blueprints have a secret room, and then lo and behold, William is freed again and thirsty for blood. Sure, Henry might have thought that William was dead, but he thought that those guys would stumble upon a dead body in a secret room all sealed up and then what, just ignore it? Or freak out and get rid of it themselves? Would they even know that it was a dead body? Because like, they might have just thought that it was a really, really old animatronic. Like they do when it starts moving. If it starts moving, I'd be like, okay, there's no way this is an old animatronic. So like, what was Henry's plan here? It doesn't seem to make any sense. Like, who would think that this is a good idea? Especially after owning a business for that long. In at 4, Alivened. While he might have had issues in killing Afton for whatever reason, he seems to be just fine offing his son when he finally gets the chance. And by his son, I mean Afton's son. I mean, like, in both the fires that were set by Henry, FNAF 3 and FNAF 6, Michael was there both times, and he didn't seem to care that Michael was in the building. He didn't even give Michael the opportunity to exit the building in FNAF 6, despite there having been a way out planned. Quote from Henry's final speech, "And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be." He assumes that we also want to die in these halls, and then doesn't give us the chance to actually make the decision for ourselves. He just forces us to die since he doesn't give us a way out. I'm sorry, man, but that's murder, okay? Whether we wanted it or not. Assisted suicide is still illegal, at least for the majority of the states, from my understanding. So either way, this is a crime. But again, he doesn't give us the option to get out, making it more of a murder-suicide than an assisted self-offing. Getting close to the end into number 3, cliffhanger. I love stories. I love telling stories, I love hearing stories, I love reading stories. Most of my favorite stories involve time travel, but I also love TV. And one thing that TV is really good at is keeping you hooked with cliffhangers. The issue is, that only works for TV. When I'm playing a game, I don't want to be left on a cliffhanger and then not have it be resolved that same game. That just feels like it's a way to try and force me to buy the next game so I can see the conclusion of how that plays out. Freddy, though, definitely provides us with a couple cliffhangers that never get resolved in Security Breach no matter how hard you look. Most notably, I think, are There Is No Bunny in This Pizzaplex Not Anymore and You Look Different to Me. The first one, of course, being in reference to Bonnie after Monty seemingly smashed him, and while we may not have gotten a confirmed explanation, at the very least we got that one duffel bag that explains that it was most likely Monty's fault that Bonnie isn't here. However, that second one, You Look Different to Me, is what Freddy says after we install Roxy's eyes onto him. Okay, he says that we look different to him now, but then he never mentions that again since Moondrop decides to show up. Okay, I don't get it. Why? Why would you do this? It's mean, okay? I hate mysteries. They need to be solved. And the only explanation that makes sense is that Gregory is a robot, but there's like hard that we can't know, okay? God damn it, Freddy. Penultimately, in at number 2, staying until 6. Glamrock Freddy straight up encourages Gregory to risk his life in order to get out of the Pizzaplex, when in all honesty, the safest thing to do would just be to keep him in your stomach or in your green room until 6 AM, especially after the door had closed and he was definitely stuck. Okay, there was no need for this daycare secret escape hatch BS. Okay, you could have just gone back the way you came and everything would have been fine. You would have not been suspicious since you'd have at least appeared like you listened to Vanessa, then went back to your room after she told you to, and then Gregory would have been safe, especially after you knew that there was a crazy bunny bitch running around the Pizzaplex trying to slaughter him. So yeah, if Glamrock Freddy is possessed by Michael, he did a horrible job being a surrogate older brother or whatever the situation is, okay? That kind of hurts the whole he's there to protect Gregory because of the crying child thing. You can think of all the excuses for him that you want, okay? But if Gregory had just waited in Freddy's green room, everything would have been fine. Vanessa would have had no reason to check there since she didn't have at any point throughout the game, even when Freddy pops back up 5 minutes after being left in parts and service with his freaking head removed. Like, who else is going to put him back together aside from Gregory? Like, you could have simply let Gregory stay with you in your room or kept him in your cake hole in your chest until 6 AM because we can go into recharge stations with him. Okay, so why couldn't we just chill in his chest the whole time if it was actually that safe, okay? God damn it. I hate this series. And finally, in at number 1, selfish. This whole list is going to make so many people angry, but I think that this number especially is going to make those hardcore Freddy stans absolutely furious, and I think that's hilarious. Glamrock Freddy, no matter what way you slice it, is selfish. Some people assume that he's possessed by Michael Afton, okay? I just mentioned it, which, if it is true, that means that he's only protecting you because he feels bad and thinks that he caused his brother's death, which he partly did. Or, if he isn't possessed by Michael Afton, this Freddy is very loose with his so-called moral code. He tells you not to hurt his friends and that he doesn't want their upgrades, but then he takes them anyway. You could argue that it's in his programming because like we hit the button on the monitor or whatever, but it's also supposed to be in his programming to hunt us down. Obviously, he isn't really working through his normal specs, but nevertheless, after hearing about the brutal mutilation of his friends, he still lets you install these upgrades into his body and then doesn't bat an eye about how you got them or that, you know, his friends are in his body now. It's incredibly messed up when you really think about it, okay? Basically, in this game, Gregory is a black market organ harvester and dealer, but for animatronics. And Freddy doesn't care, because it gets him a cool new ability. Yeah, That's right, I said it. In at 10, paint cans. After starting the game and getting to the free roam section of Security Breach where you have the tutorial for distracting animatronics, I just want to mention how goddamn lucky that is, okay? Like, one of the animatronics that you're going to need to avoid, no matter how damn fine she is, you need to avoid her, is literally eating garbage right in your way. But somehow, there's also a stack of paint cans randomly on a random cart in the middle of the hall in front of you. The cart is also, for some reason, blocking the hall, which I'm sure multiple employees love having to take the long way around, but it's fine that it's blocking the way because you can knock over these convenient and empty paint cans so that Chica will come and investigate it. I'd say her taking the way that she does is also lucky, however, this is like one of the only times where pathing makes sense since she's right next to the door that she ends up using, and I think that any other person in this situation would have done the same thing. However, one thing that I don't understand is in at 9, inconvenient exit. During the so-called interrogation and torture scene in Parts and Service, from what I've been seeing YouTube videos titled online, Vanessa is questioning Freddy about Gregory and accusing him of helping Gregory, which I mean is true, but she shouldn't have to actually accuse him of that, more on that later. But after telling him that she's gonna leave him down there until his casing can be put on a new endo, which doesn't really make sense if the coating is the issue and not the endoskeleton, like, still, why would you leave to go to Rockstar Row through Roxy's lift when you could easily have just turned around to come our way and head into the main atrium? That's where Gregory is for the majority of the game. That's where all the animatronics have been spotting him, and it would make more sense to go there than to Rockstar Row, where maybe he was seen twice at this point. I don't know, it seems weird to me, but the reason that this is lucky is because had she chosen to go the more logical route, which would have been towards us, she would have walked through the doors we were hiding behind, and it's not like we have much room to hide around them, okay? The walls on either side of this door are made of glass. She would see us run into the charging station or wherever else we went. So yeah, her choosing to exit in the most inconvenient way to her actually ends up helping us out. And at 8, Freddy. Just everything that Gregory does with Freddy seems to work out eventually, even if not at first. Look at what he does before the doors actually close the first time. He sends us to get a pass in order to free him from the green room, and then everything seems to be going well. But then for some random reason, without ever mentioning this before, he tells us that he senses that we are broken and that he needs to bring us to a medical tent so that he can fix us up. Whether this was meant to be a nod to Crying Child or not in this case doesn't matter. Point is here that it didn't do anything, okay? We get a run-in with Vanessa that later turns into a TikTok meme, but other than that, we stay the same, okay? We don't get healed, we don't get a band-aid because we could have had the one that's on his character from the start, and we get in that booth, instantly turn around to watch the Vanessa and Freddy scene, and then after that, we leave instantly, and Freddy never mentions how we're still broken. And being broken, in this case, never seems to come up again or cause us any issues. Especially since now, with that little pit stop, even if you go full steam ahead, you can't make it out of the front doors in time. That one little interaction is the 30 seconds that we needed in order to escape out the front doors, but thanks to Freddy, we didn't make it. But he still doesn't abandon us. He just tries to help. I mean, I don't know, it's off, okay? And if Freddy is evil, him not revealing it there and then is definitely lucky as hell. And at 8, carries us. While yes, ripping us out of your stomach and tearing us to shreds with that last bit of power you have left is stupid, putting us in that chamber in the first place was a pretty goddamn stupid idea, and it was just probably just at least equally as stupid. I mean, like, he even said it himself that it was a bad idea, but even after saying that, he lets us crawl inside anyway. And there were so many other options. Okay, I'll discuss the biggest issue later on, but seriously, why did he think that this would result in anything other than our death? It's a miracle that it didn't, honestly, especially when we're inside his stomach while he's getting recharged. This dude needs so much power that to fix him we need to juice him with a damn car battery, but we're just sitting inside him while he's getting all that power back from a station inside of him, where the wires and robotic parts are. How did we not get electrocuted? Okay? Like, yeah, we deal with a lot of dangerous things throughout this game, but running around inside Freddy is supposed to be the safe space according to the game. But looking at it logically, it might even have been the worst idea of all. And it's 7 stupid answers. Okay, look, I get the idea that stupid questions get stupid answers, but honestly, for being this advanced of an AI, this guy is dumb as hell. Oh, what was that? Oh, that's a fountain. Really? No shit, Sherlock, of course it's a fountain. What are you on about? Okay, I get that you can't see Vanny, but given the CRT effects that we get when she's around, assuming that we are human, there is no way that you can't even feel that something was different there, okay? My question is, why are you unable to see her? But you can then see her when you get Roxy's eyes? That seems so stupid to me. Like, why would you block every animatronic but Roxy from seeing you? And if you didn't block every animatronic and only blocked Freddy, why? What would have been the point of that? The whole point of this is that nobody is suspicious of Freddy actually being the guy who's helping Gregory, okay? Even after Vanessa leaves Freddy with his head removed in the parts and service room, and then like 5 minutes later he can walk in front of her without her even batting an eye. So why would they make him unable to see Vanny? It's like whatever stupid blind spot they made or not, okay? Dude answers multiple questions with stupid answers that don't help anyone, alright? It's annoying. He could have done so much more. And at 6, power. What is the deal with this guy and actually needing to recharge like every 5 minutes? Okay, in like the game sense, time isn't really moving when I'm running around for 5 hours since I haven't actually progressed the story. So if this animatronic is supposed to need to recharge every hour only, why is this such a big issue? And why does he only use power when we're actually inside of him like a mech, okay? Like, if this was the case, shouldn't this man be losing power when we summon him to like grab us down in the 3rd basement floor? And why does he need to recharge but seemingly all the other animatronics don't? Okay, I never see Chica, Roxy, or Monty in a recharge station. Even if you're around where they should be around, or like where they should be in a recharge station when the hour hits, okay? It's stupid, it's confusing, and it doesn't make any sense. It's almost like Freddy is doing this to us on purpose, either because he thinks it's funny, or maybe he really is working for Vanny but needs to gain our trust and makes excuses for why he can't be around us all the time so then he can go and sneak off and tell Vanny what's going on. Or why we can't just like hide inside of him all night, okay? There's something fishy going on with this animatronic, and I swear in the next game we're gonna find out that he ended up betraying us and ripping us to shreds off screen. Halfway through into number 5, doesn't kick us out. Okay, when you think that your friend is supposed to protect you, having them suddenly rip you out of their chest and kill you is certainly a surprise. And while you may be thinking something like, well, that's your own damn fault for running out of power, you know what? I would normally agree with you on that, okay? But when this game establishes right off the bat that if Freddy runs out of power he will kick you out, when he doesn't in the future, it's pretty goddamn stupid. Like, whatever, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have let him run out of power, but let me tell you a story. I was playing through Security Breach and I ended up getting stuck inside of Freddy. This was my first time playing, and like I had gotten into a recharge station, and when I came out I was unable to exit the animatronic. So after being kicked out the first time that Freddy ran out of power, and like because the story forced us to, right before you learn how to distract Chica by knocking over the paint cans, I figured that the way to get out of him when I was stuck would just be to wait and let him run out of power, so that I wouldn't have to lose progress since I hadn't gotten the chance to save in a while, because that's just how the game was set up. So I waited, and I waited, and then when he ran out of power, I died, resetting me to my last save point. So all I did at that point was waste time, all because this game had established that if you ran out of power he would kick you out and run to a recharge station. That's why I'm deciding to use that last little bit of power to open up his stomach, tear us out, and then rip us a new one is one of the worst things that Freddy has or could have done. Okay, it's like the death coin in FNAF. If you establish something, you keep it the same way, God. In it for Monty's claws. Monty's whole personality is destroying things, okay? He likes to do it and is capable of doing it because of the claws that they installed onto his character so that he could pluck the strings of the bass guitar. I guess animatronics don't like using guitar picks for some reason. Either way, when Freddy gets these claws, he's also able to start destroying things and breaking open barriers, which is just kind of weird when you think about it. Like, was Monty this way before getting the claws? Because if he was, he couldn't really do much damage, since we needed the claws to even be able to smash through small fence gates. So if he already was like that, why would they have given him the death machines for hands? Or wasn't that like the hands gave him the ability to smash things, which turned into him smashing everything he could? I mean, it's definitely possible, okay? We've seen Weirder come out of the FNAF series, and if that was the way that this played out, would it also happen for Freddy? Like, is Freddy going to see how much he likes smashing stuff and then just go absolutely bananas? I think it could happen. And even if it doesn't, the fact that Freddy has these destructive capabilities and then just doesn't punch out the other animatronics during the final boss fight, friends or not, especially when Afton isn't trying to take control of him, like when Roxy comes in and you have to crawl inside and then scream. Yeah, why didn't he just punch her out then? Okay, that's messed up. He could have done so much more, but he just chose not to. And ultimately, in number 2, Boy Genius. The absolute mountain of knowledge that this kid has exceeds my own, okay? This kid is the size of a 4-year-old. He can fit inside Freddy, baby strollers, like popcorn kind of vending cart things that you can find around the Pizzaplex, and various other small areas. He's too small to drive one of the go-karts alone and has to get one of his, like, the instructor bot things. But he knows how to restart generators, operate a trash compactor. He's strong enough to restart generators. And he's also capable of driving a car, as well as identifying the car battery, connecting jumper cables on a car battery properly, and then using those to fix Freddy's recharging issue, okay? How does this make any sense? And how do they solve that issue in literally any other ending, okay? Because Freddy is still going to need to recharge every hour, supposedly, or at least he says that he does. I don't really believe that that's a story for another day. But like, how does this happen? Okay, how do they solve that issue? This kid knows more words than I do, but is somehow the size of a 4-year-old. Maybe even smaller, okay? It makes absolutely no sense. And this kid's weird superpower is what makes this game so confusing. It really only makes sense if he's a robot that's supposed to mimic a toddler who's been operational for decades and has been learning the whole time, okay? Or that Security Breach is really just a cleverly skinned Jimmy Neutron fan game, okay? Which one is more likely here? And finally, in at number 1, Free Roam Freddy. We've talked a lot about the parts and service section, okay? Because Gregory just seems to have gotten extremely lucky at multiple points in this chapter of the game, one after the other. However, the luckiest, I think, comes from after Vanessa leaves Freddy in parts and service. She says that it's so that his casing can be put on a new endo after either corporate gives the green light or they have someone on the clock who can actually just remove it and put it on someone else. But she doesn't seem to be suspicious that he's walking around Rockstar Row literally within like maybe 3 minutes if you've played the section before and don't mess up the memory game, okay? Like, who would have repaired him if not Gregory? There is literally no other living human in the Pizzaplex at this point, and the whole containment cylinder thing is to protect human beings. There are no staff bots in parts and service, and the reason you had to leave him there was because nobody else is working since it's after midnight. Why would Vanessa be so chill about Freddy walking around after that? I mean, like, she literally left him with his head removed, and if she assumed that somehow he did it himself, why wouldn't she then confine him to his room if he's that suspicious? Especially after just accusing him of helping to protect Gregory. It was something that confused me so much in my first playthrough, so I figured that Vanessa would pull us out of Freddy if we got too close. But I walked up to her to test it, and nothing. It would have been easy to make just a little modification to her code for this part of the game and make her actually be like, why are you here? Rip out Freddy. Or rip out Gregory, not Freddy. But like, come on, you could have made Vanessa a little bit more dangerous at this point, but no, okay? Gregory venting certainly isn't the only thing that's sus about this game. Let me just say that. In at 10, bullying. Not talking about what it led to, but specifically the tormenting of the younger brother. While common among siblings, especially in media, this is just damn cruel. I mean, like, even Roderick wouldn't have ripped off one of Greg's plushy heads and then tormented him with it. So the bullying here is a damn shame. And honestly, the fact that William did nothing to reprimand his son for tormenting his other son only makes this worse, I'm sure. Which eventually caused him to escalate, and essentially escalate so much that, well, we all know what happened. But even without that, brothers who torment their younger brothers like that are cruel. Like, I tormented my sister, but I didn't like destroy her stuff so I could use it as a mask to then scare her even more. And I'm sure that he doesn't like just wear it to scare a crying child either. He probably just walks around with it on the regular just to make his younger brother mad, since, you know, he's wearing your stuffed animal's face. And at 9, encouraging Gregory. Assuming that Glamrock Freddy is possessed by Michael, even if I don't think it's likely, Michael, as Glamrock Freddy, straight up encourages Gregory to risk his life in order to get out of the Pizzaplex, when in all honesty, the safest thing to do would be to just keep him either in your stomach or in your green room until 6 AM, especially after the doors closed and he was definitely stuck. There was no need for this daycare, secret escape, hatch escape plan thing, okay? You could have just gone back the way you came and everything would have been fine. You would not have been suspicious since you'd have at least appeared like you listened to Vanessa and went back to your green room, and then Gregory would have been safe, especially after you knew that there was a crazy bunny running around looking to slaughter people. So yeah, if Glamrock Freddy is possessed by Michael, he did a horrible job at protecting his surrogate younger brother, which kinda hurts the whole he protects Gregory because of crying child thing, doesn't it? And it ain't listen to his father. Now, this takes a bit of assuming, but less than assuming that Glam Freddy is possessed, so it's gonna be a spot higher. We learn in Michael's final speech in Sister Location that he went to find his sister because his father asked him to, saying something along the lines of, "I did it, I put her back together, just like you asked me to," which is yes in reference to Baby, but the issue I have with this is why did he listen to his father? I don't think he learned about the horrible things his father did because of Baby. Like, I think he must have learned about it beforehand, maybe when he got Crying Child killed since he was freaking out because the animatronic jaw should not have been able to crush his skull, and even if he didn't know about what William was doing, honestly that could make this point even worse. Like, what other things did William ask his son to do, either while he was stuck in Fazbear's Fright or before that Michael did without question? That's a thought that really worries me, and maybe Michael has more to repent for than just hurting his brother. And at 7, Vanny. There were a load of complaints about how Vanny was an underutilized villain, and I totally agree. She only shows up like maybe 5 times in the main story, but like every time she does, she seemingly is taunting us instead of actually pursuing us. Like, sure, if she gets close enough she will charge, but in my mind that's just her thinking like, oh, I actually have a shot now, might as well try and grab him. But her just casually skipping while going after Gregory and then only really coming at him like 5 times in total is actually pretty solid luck on Gregory's part. Like, she always seems to know where Gregory is when she does show up, so if she was around regularly we would have to constantly be on the move. And she also shows up whenever Gregory doesn't have access to Freddy, as if it's like she knows that he doesn't have access, which would only make this worse for him, but it's fine, which in my mind at least is pretty damn lucky. This is one lucky duck, let me tell you. And at 6, Disassemble. In the Phaser Blast ending, the one where, you know, you push the button instead of playing Princess Quest 3, Gregory actually ends up ordering the robots to disassemble Vanny. Gregory being willing to kill Vanny here is pretty messed up. However, it's lucky that these staff bots even understood that command. Okay, Vanny is a human, not something that's typically seen as capable of disassembly, okay? When a serial killer hacks up a body, okay, the police don't say that the victim was disassembled, they say they were dismembered, okay? This guy kills Vanny and then only gets emotional when he has to go talk to a destroyed Freddy. Okay, like, dude, okay, Vanny is literally bleeding out next to you. We saw what happened to Freddy, okay? That was the disassembly. So, yeah, couldn't you just have said, like, stop or restrain Vanny? Particularly stop, okay? You didn't have to say freaking disassemble. I get that she said that about Freddy and it was fresh in your mind, but dude, okay? You're not panicking about literally anything else. And if the robots hadn't understood that command because, you know, humans aren't disassembled, then it would have caused you a hell of a lot of pain. It worked on Freddy because robots can be disassembled because they get assembled in the first place. But now I am definitely going to start calling pregnancy assembling a human now, so that's fun. Thanks for that. Halfway through into number 5, not a snitch. Okay, I don't know how Gregory survived security breach in general, alright? There were plenty of times that this kid could have got. Particularly though when Freddy gets grabbed by the Moondrop animatronic right outside parts of service. You're telling me that Moondrop, the daycare attendant, the guy who has been chasing us every hour on the hour, told Vanessa that Freddy was in the parts and service room, but didn't mention that we were in the recharge station right next to it? He knew we were there. He waved at us while taking Freddy away. And then Vanessa talks to Freddy as if she doesn't know that we're listening in. It's almost like they're putting on a show. Like, sure, the daycare attendant isn't able to get us while we're in a recharge station, but we clearly aren't visible to him. He waved. So why wouldn't he also inform Vanessa about a kid in the recharge station while also saying, oh yeah, and I got Freddy? Okay, and if he did, why not bring that up when talking to Freddy instead of just asking him if he's helping us? Okay, it doesn't make sense. Daycare attendant not ratting on us is definitely a lucky moment, okay? I guess maybe he knows that snitches get stitches and that Gregory will tear him limb from limb with a smile on his face if he did, so maybe that's how it works. And at 4, destruction. Speaking of tearing animatronics limb from limb, isn't it convenient that there is a way to break every other animatronic that isn't Freddy, and then that leaves the animatronic broken in the right way to remove whatever aspect that you actually needed to upgrade Freddy? Hell yeah it is. It's so lucky that there is somehow a way to break each of the animatronics in the perfect amount for the animatronics as well, okay? And it works the first time. And even with Chica, okay, we push her into a trash compactor and somehow don't get crushed ourselves, despite her grabbing onto our leg, okay? We only get pulled into another area that we can still still get back to the Pizzaplex through instead of being pulled into the trash compactor and crushed. So yeah, needless to say that looking at it logically, it's extremely lucky that there is a way to destroy each of the evil animatronics in a way that allows us to access their specific upgrades. Even though we didn't need to crush the animatronics and instead it could have just chilled in Freddy's green room until 6 a.m. when the doors opened. So yeah, lucky us. Getting close to the end at number 3, fire. Alright, so during the true ending, otherwise known as the Afton ending or the burn trap ending or whatever you want to call it ending, we have to fend off Burn Trap's attempts to take control over Freddy by setting him on fire using what I'm guessing are the mechanisms that Henry used to set fire to the FNAF 6 location. However, I mean, it's pretty convenient how we fall into the room that we need to in this case, with monitors set up connected to the cameras in the various rooms that Burn Trap enters exclusively, with buttons that light the fires in those various rooms that correspond with the monitor, despite it being far more convenient for Henry to light everything at the same time with one button. Think about it, okay? How are these working still? It's clearly been a while, okay? Based on some comments, apparently the Pizzaplex has been open for at least 4 years, which I don't know if it's accurate, but if it is, these cameras and old computers are still working 4 years after being set on fire. That was enough to ruin the building. Not to mention a sinkhole that had to open up underneath it since we have to travel down an elevator to get there, and like, how is it working after all of that? And if you say that it was Vanny, why make sure the fire systems are still working and then set them to be on separate buttons, okay? Plus, now, these computer monitors are literal dinosaurs. How did they work before the fire, let alone after? Yeah. Getting close to the end, and in number 3 left his sister. Now, don't get me wrong. Allowing yourself to be a vessel for a group of evil bags is one thing. I really felt like Dean Winchester there for a minute. But the other ending doesn't actually let Michael off the hook either. In the other ending, the non-canon one, I'm guessing, where Ennard attacks you while you're watching Immortal and the Restless, you end up actually leaving your sister in the underground storage facility for dead. Well, not for dead since she's already possessing an animatronic, but you know what I mean. You didn't even try to set her free. And assuming that that's what you did in the previous games, you already know how to set them free. So like, why didn't you set your sister free? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, my sister and I, we don't always see eye to eye. Sometimes she can't take my hilarious jokes and my brilliant sense of humor, but I'd still release her soul if it was trapped inside a 6-foot tall giant robot. Okay, I would. But this man just leaves. And we know that he knows it's Elizabeth. He just doesn't care. What a great big brother this guy is. You already screwed over one sibling, why not the other one too, right? Speaking of which, and ultimately, in at number 2, Chomp. I think we all know that Michael is certainly at least partially responsible for the bite of 83. Because while William did superpower the Fredbear jaw, if Michael hadn't put his brother's head in the mouth, it wouldn't have mattered. While yes, he thought that he'd be safe because it's an animatronic mouth, how bad can it really be? He still definitely contributed to Crying Child's death. It's interesting the way that like fate works. In this instance, we can really blame anyone for the death of Crying Child, because I am absolutely certain at the very least Michael blamed himself at the beginning. After learning what William was up to and what he did to the animatronic, maybe the guilt lifted slightly, but all that it would really do was assure himself that he didn't have the intention on killing his brother. But either way, without him, nobody would have put his head in the animatronic mouth. But yeah, getting your little bro chomped is definitely gonna cause some friction among the family members, especially when, because of that, you're the only 2 family members left. And finally, and at number 1, nothing. Michael Afton's biggest sin in my mind is his ability to do nothing. Like, sure, he seems to be playing the good guy, going after his father and trying to undo his deeds, but really, Michael to me just seems like he's been playing hero this whole time while not actually doing anything. Sure, he says he's trying to right his father's wrongs and whatnot, but looking at him, he's not doing it because he's a good person. He seems to be doing it because he just feels bad and not because of some higher moral code. He blames himself for getting his brother killed, which subsequently means that anything he does to try and fix that is just to make himself feel better about it, because in the end, nothing's gonna bring his little brother back. And if anything, the FNAF 3 Happiest Day minigame is because of Henry. not Michael. And you know what? This guy, he doesn't have the balls to actually end his father once and for all. He says that he's gonna go come find him in the final scene of Sister Location, but then when he does, he's not the one to burn the place down, okay? Henry's the one who does that. Henry is the only one who's able to actually sack up and do anything about this. I mean, he does it in a horribly stupid way, but he still at least does something. If Michael really wanted to make sure that William was stopped, like I said earlier in the list, he wouldn't have let himself burn. He would have stayed alive, made sure that his dad was dead, made sure that his old man had kicked the animatronic filled bucket, and then offed himself. But he lets himself burn so that he won't have to deal with knowing what his father did and live with the regret of hurting his brother. So, yeah, he didn't really do anything.